Welcome to the Motivated Martial Arts Podcast. Your hosts, Jackson White and Gavin Cook, have been friends and Taekwondo training partners for over 40 years. This podcast will bring you a mixture of their life stories, martial arts, and business experiences to motivate you in life and throughout your martial arts journey. Adding in a mixture of inspiring interviews and some of the best traditional martial artists around today. So over to your hosts, the Motivated Martial Artists.
Okay, welcome to the Motivated Martial Artists with me, Gavin Cook.
And me, Jackson White.
And today we've got Grandmaster Walton from the TAGB on live with us today. So, Grandmaster Walton, great to have you on the show, Kenny. Hello.
Okay, morning, gentlemen. Okay, great to be here. I'm looking forward to it. Okay, I've got a little bit of spicy of history, so I'd like to share it with you.
Yeah, I know the TAGB have been desperate to get you on, some of our listeners, so like I say, it's great to have you on today and great to hear some of these, hear some of the old stories. So, I'm going to pass you over to Jackson, who's got the first question lined up, Kenny.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Good to have you on.
Good morning, Jackson.
Just a really first thing that we always ask our guests, just give us a bit of an insight into your early life, where you grew up, your schooling, and really what got you into martial arts.
Okay, Yorkshire born, Yorkshire bred. We won't add the rest of that little story. I come from a little village called Thorne near Doncaster, small village, mining village. Yeah. My parents, my mother worked in the fields at first, then she worked in an electrical factory. My dad was a butcher by trade, and then went into the mining trade, and then into the steelworks. I have two brothers, one sister. I'm the youngest. I often say I was a bit of a mistake, probably a win on the bingo. The area was, not a rich area, but a good area. We had lots of fun. I had some great friends. To a Catholic school. I've always had to travel. My mother is Catholic. My dad didn't believe. I'm from junior Catholic school. I then went to a senior Catholic school again, about 15 miles away. So involved lots of travelling. I attended church, like you do, and we'd been in a small Catholic school. If you could breathe, had a heartbeat, and were able to run around, you were in every team that the school had. It made me have a passion for all kinds of sports. It's a great school, some great people who've been influences on my life in certain ways. I was in it, like, as I say, the football, rugby, swimming, athletics team, everything you could get, I was part of and loved it. At 13, my sister, Yvonne, wanted to do some martial arts. Her friends were going to do some martial arts, and her husband was going to do some martial arts and wanted to do this Taekwondo thing. All right. Will you come along, Kenny? I'll pay for you. Okay. Obviously, that really resonated with me, somebody paying for me to do something.
Yeah, being a Yorkshire man.
Yes, definitely. And 13, taking bottles back to the local shop and everything was a good form of income. And she said, right, come along, I'll pay for you. She went to one session, never went again. I loved it. It was absolutely brilliant. Now, the people that she went with, they stayed, Yvonne and Robert, and they ended up taking me to certain classes. It was in Thorne first, and then we moved. My instructor was Tony Quigley, great guy, who learned the basics and everything in Singapore with the Air Force, came over, was part of the UKTA. Good instructor. I already had some black belts. And coming through, you didn't have children, you didn't have lots of kids in the classes, you just had grown-ups, and it was rough and tough, and you were, non-political, and you can't, you were knuckled, you were swept, you were kicked on the back of the leg, you were swept if your stances weren't right. It was old, traditional trade training, which was, I really enjoyed it.
My dad's class, Kenny, when I was growing up.
You have the obligatory concrete floor to land on.
Yes. In your bag, you actually, we were lucky we didn't have a concrete floor. We had a wooden one, but you had to carry tweezers with you, because every night, if you didn't come away with a few splinters, it wasn't a good night. And like I say, the facilities and everything weren't as nice as they are today, but they were great. When you go back to it, and there were some great people, old traditional stuff. You see old pictures, and you had one suit and it lasted you forever, even if it was like, it looked like you were wearing some cut-off trousers. You grew with them, and not like they are today. It was the old wrap-over suits and the trousers up to your knees. Yeah, it was good. And the kind of stuff you did is, it also helped clean the floor, all the physical and stuff you ended up doing. It was the good old days. Now I'm sounding like my dad.
Funny when you think back to those days, isn't it? And it was raw and it was hard and it was tough. But you make such good friends, and you become so close to the people that you're training with, because you're all going through that experience together, aren't you?
Yeah, it was a bit difficult for me because I was like the youngest kid in the class. As we say, they didn't have children. You know what I mean? I was like 13. Everybody else was early 20s, something like that, or older. But they were still okay with me. It helped me mature as a person, as Taekwondo always does. All these other attributes, apart from the martial arts practice, it develops you as a person, which made me what I am today. And my instructor Tony, he started it.
I suppose it was quite inspiring for you, being a young 13-year-old teenager looking up to all these higher belts in the class, and it's quite, we were saying on an earlier podcast, it's quite intimidating, isn't it, for people when they first start the clubs? They come in and they hear all this shouting and press ups on your knuckles and all that sort of stuff, and it's great, isn't it? Like you stuck with it for all these years and started off, with a good foundation.
Oh yeah, like I say, you just loved it. And we were training at Thorn, and then which is the village, and then we were going through to Doncaster. And then, as we went on, we had other classes to go to. So it started off from nothing to 4 nights a week. Just like that, bam. I didn't know the belts. I'm a young kid. I'm going through it. And when I look back now, I had some double grades and things like that they used to do in the UKTA then. And my parents never came to see me, do martial arts. My dad came once to a competition in Crystal Palace, but I'll talk to you about that later on. They never saw me do it. They saw me practicing in the back garden, you know what I mean, where I had a Marawaki board, I had my punch bag outside, practicing all the moves outside in the garden all the time. Just kind of took over, just training. It was just, it kind of takes over. I still do my other sports, but just really enjoyed it. It was super.
So how old were you, Kenny, when you achieved your first degree black belt?
I was 15, but it was just over 2 years, for me to take the Dan. But then Master Rikiar, he didn't award it. He gave me a probation because I wasn't old enough. That's what he told my instructor. So I started in 73, graded in 75, in the March of 75, and then I didn't get my certificate till a year later. And my instructor told me the reason why is because we didn't do that for young people. So, because at 15, we were I remember smashing tiles and everything, punching stacks of tiles in the academy up in Glasgow. And I'd never ever done that kind of thing before. But because it was mainly men and everything there, I remember Master Sergio, or Ron is you know what I mean, he is, and to me and everything there, being there, and Master Oliver, and they were there at the academy, and I'd never seen them because being in from Doncaster with I call him Tony Quigley, we kind of didn't. There were different areas, and we were Northerners, and they were the Midlanders, and we kind of met there, and our paths didn't cross that much. Although I did go to watch a competition in Pontefract, I have a program for that, and Dave was there. I'll call him Dave, you know what I mean, and Ron, I know because they're my friends, but everybody else would probably be calling Grandmaster Oliver, Grandmaster Sergio, etc. I've not seen it before. It was brilliant. I like a bit of this, and going forward from there, it kind of led me into competition.
So when was your did you compete before you got your black belt, Kenny, or was your
I
first
did.
competition after?
Yeah, I was a red belt. I went to Newton Aycliffe.
You remember?
I went to Newton Aycliffe. Sorry, Gavin.
Oh, sorry, Kenny, I've lost you then. Can you remember that first competition?
Yeah, I can. Okay, I went there, and as I said, there weren't all these divisions. I was a young kid. I would have been about 14 then. Red belt. Went up Newton Aycliffe. Not been in a competition before. Not done the kind of training and everything. Lost to an adult. I think the score must have been about 23-0. I think the scorecards were on fire. Okay, they were moving that fast against me. Never put me off. Thought, oh, right, I'm going to learn from this. Didn't do very well there. Not seen it. Not trained like that, Tony. Thought, oh, next time this won't happen. You know, I can't remember kind of the mentality. I just thought, no, I've got to train hard. I've got to do better than that. That wasn't good. And in a way, what it said to me was, you need to improve. And it was great for me because then I adopted a different kind of training methods by seeing those kind of people. And it wasn't till later on when I then competed with some of the Midland people. Like I got introduced to. There's a story about how I got introduced to Dave Oliver and Bob Howe and Ron Sergiu and Paul Donnelly and the people down there. I thought, oh right, I've got some other people who want to train. People who want to compete. Where I was from, not everybody wanted to compete, and I enjoyed competing. Just the thrill of it, the test of doing it and trying to improve, and that's how our paths did meet. My instructor, is a little bit of story. My instructor later on, when I was a black belt, Tony had his experience in Singapore, and some people then wanted to come over the WTF. There were certain groups in the UK, and Tony went off to the WTF, and I said, I'm not going to go. I'm going to stay with what was then the UKTA. There was another instructor in Doncaster called Mick Fanthorpe. I went to Mick Fanthorpe's class, and really good traditional teacher as well. And we started. He was the national coach. Okay, when Bob Howe took over from Bob Howe, who was going to work in the Middle East, and started competing more. And then when we were squad training in Leicester. That's when I also then bumped into, had the pleasure to come into contact with Dave Oliver, who then, I can honestly say, changed my life. You know what I mean? He was such an inspiration. I said, no, you want to come down to the Midlands? And then obviously, I was introduced to Ron and Paul and some of the other people down there, and then that's when the seeds were sown for being a competitor. But, martial arts isn't always being a competitor. It's about improving yourself. And I was physically and mentally improving as a person, the attributes, the 5 tenets that we have. Because competing is not for everybody. It's for a small amount. But
it's interesting what you're saying about your first competition. The fact you went in your first competition and you got wiped out. A lot of people, I suppose it's that fighter's mentality, isn't it? To sort of say, right, I'm going to learn from this, and I'm going to get better, and I'm going to keep improving. Where it could have gone a different way, where it could have been, oh, bugger this, I'm not going to do this again, sort of thing.
Yeah, and I just I thought, that probably could have gone better. I should probably look at it now. But in the day, you just thought, right, I like the way they're moving. Well, that works. I got caught with this. I won't get caught with that again. I'll try not to get caught with that again. And then go from there.
During doing these podcasts, we've had some of your best fighters on. And some from other associations as well. And other styles. And not one of them has said their first fight ended in a victory. Everybody has had their butts handed to them in their first 1, 2, sometimes even 3 or 4 years worth of competing before they actually find their footing, understand what they're doing wrong, and then rectify those faults that they're making to make them, world-class fighters. So yes, it's quite interesting.
Yeah, it is. Maybe it's that fight or flight, mentality. People ask me, are people born great fighters? No, you have to create one. You know what I mean? There is something there. There's something in the chemistry, and it's also being in the right area with the right person who's going to help you, who can get the best out of you. And that's when it comes to an instructor coach. If you're in the wrong area and you've got somebody who doesn't want you to be better than them, my whole life is about making them better than me. getting more out of Taekwondo or martial arts than I've had. I've had having a super life, but my people, and I know I've influenced lots of people. I know people who were maybe at a crossroads, and if they didn't go with the pathway with me, they could have ended up in jail or other things. You know what I mean? And they turned around to me and said, "You help me." You know what I mean? And it's nice to know. You know,
On that note, Kenny, I mean, we obviously, like Jackie said, we've interviewed a lot of your squad, friends and squad members, and without, pretty nearly every episode has been a mention of you, from them sort of saying what an influential person you've been as in terms of a coach and as a fighter. So actually, totally agree with what you're saying. I mean, everyone has sort of mentioned you along their path, So
Well, before we get into more coaching stuff, Kenny, can you talk to us about your first international trip away? Have you got any recollections of that and any good stories from that era?
Yes. We trained hard. I know there'd been a couple of internationals in the Netherlands and everything, but the World Championship in 1978 in Oklahoma City was one of the first ones. And the squad had trained down in Leicester. Mick Vanthorpe was the coach then, because Bob Howard had gone away to the Middle East. And I always remember Dave Oliver and Roy Oldham landing in New York and driving to Oklahoma. It only looks a short way on the map when you have a look at but it's not. It's like days of travelling, and they turned up to watch us. But we were in Oklahoma, second World Championships. I always remember it was quite a Bible-bashing state, they might say. Maybe not political correctness there, but we were walking down the streets with our shirts off because it was warm, and the police pulled up and said, "Hey boys, what you doing? You got to get your shirts on." And we were like, "Oh, we don't want to get arrested here. There's going to be trouble." So it was a super trip. There were some super people there, but we met up with some great people at that competition, and we were kind of new to it. As I say, some of the lads, Ron had some experience with a competition in the the Netherlands. So I think actually most of that team, I think it was Ron got injured there. We were all fresh, new boys, and it was seeing the different styles. We were trained hard. Okay, Hank Mayer was there, great fighter. Don James, the Canadian who won the first world champs in the middleweight. Lots of other people, lots of other different styles and everything. And it was just so interesting. And part of the team, in the patterns, we won a bronze team pattern. Right. Yeah. I think Taekwondo, you got to do everything, and we did. We did pattern, sparring, breaking. The good old days when you weren't just a fighter, you had to do all the disciplines. To me, that is the Taekwondo. And all these people, generally, in the team then, we had to do everything, right? And then in the individual team, we fought Canada, and they had some of the best people. I think actually there was Dan Zaleski in there as well. Okay. But I fought Don James, who was the world champion. I was just 17, 18, and he was about 28. I beat him in the individual, in the team, and I was the only person to win in the team match. I thought, right. In the individuals, I ended up playing him in the semi-final, and went to an extension, and ended up losing. Okay, but picking up a third, which was okay. We'd never seen anything like that before, and he came across and he said, close decision and everything. But as I did all the time, always trying to get information, and I went to him saying, we're talking about training and everything, and this is a young kid going up to a grown man saying, "Excuse me, sir, what type of things do you do?" And he was saying he used to do ballet and dance for his flexibility and his movement. Don James is a black athlete, big fighter, in Canada. Just done about the training, but the rhythm and the stretching that he got a lot of his moves from ballet. Okay. He was a very artistic guy, very, very interesting. Even thinking then, I was a shipwright by trade. I'm an apprentice, coming from a local village in Yorkshire. It was just like so inspiring. Came back, went to ballet. went to ballet and dance classes. Okay, and that went on to work, being in a dance troupe and doing shows and dancing around the country, like Hot Gossip and stuff like that. But that's another podcast. But it was so influential with my training and everything. I went back and said, "Man, I'm going to do that," and I'm always looking for things which are going to improve me, even to this day. Even to something at the weekend, happened at the weekend, I picked something up to do with training and with coaching, which I'll use in my classes and everything. But that was my first competition, Oklahoma. Very good.
Okay. And from your first competition, can you give us an insight into your best competition, your best title? Was it at World Championships? Was it a team event? Just give us one of the great events that you did.
Probably that one was a good one, although we didn't have these things called mobile phones, filming and stuff like that. You had like a cine camera, and nobody had that. Not very many people had them. Probably going into Argentina next. Very interesting. Was winning went through all the divisions, beat all the national champions. We were in a massive stadium. I remember, I fought the Argentinian champion and beat him, and their place was in uproar. I thought we were going to get lynched, but that trip was quite a few of them moments when we thought we were going to get lynched. But then in the semi-final, I had a knee change and somebody kicked my leg up, tore my ligaments, in my knee. We tried to get somebody to do some cortisone injections. I went out, I remember, stood on one leg like the Karate Kid, I think this one was against Hart. No, I can't remember now. I know Hardy got a third in that one, but I couldn't move, and I shouldn't have been out there, but I've got to go out, and Bob Howe let me go out. He took over the coaching on that one, but couldn't do it. It does remind you of seeing, it was like scenes from the Karate Kid when you stood there, but it didn't have the outcome that the Karate Kid did. And that's when, I will call him Grandmaster Oliver now, to give me the nickname of Crybaby Walton. You know what I mean? I was only having on my leg, you know what I mean? You big northern wuss.
Is that why you've introduced jumping scissor funk kicks into the black belt grading, Kenny?
yeah, that's why that's why, you know, and that was Dave's best kick and everything. But yeah, it was just one of those things, and the team went on to win in the team event. But I've had quite a few, and they're all. We went through Europe, as I say. Dave was a great influence. We went down to the Midlands training, and Ron used to pick me up because I couldn't drive. He used to pick me up from Coventry Station, let me, you know, drive round. We'd stay at his house, but we'd train, and he'd come up to Yorkshire, and we'd train. You know, developing this friendship with them, as well as obviously working together, was absolutely, you know, brilliant and a big influence on my career. You know, it definitely helped us.
Okay, so moving on from your fighting career, then obviously you're now the TAGB national coach. Talk us through some of the great teams that you've coached over the last 15 years.
Oh, I've got a problem with it. Everything melts into one. We probably lead on some full contact. We'll tell you some other things in a minute. But the team itself, from being part of the team, part of being a world championship, multi-world championship winning team, going through the different eras. When Dave decided to retire, I was kind of right at the top. We had some good light heavyweight fighters then. It was a case of, do I want to try to be a player coach or not? And when Dave decided to retire, the natural choice was for me to go into that position, and I did. And I was lucky enough to inherit some great fighters all through the different weights, which is a little bit different from now. We used to have 3 or 4 at each weight. You know, sometimes now, you know, the commitment, personally, and I'll say it as it is, because that's the only way I know how to do it, is, you know, sometimes we have to make the best out of who can make the weight. You know, the commitment from people is not always there, not like it used to be. You know, you just be thinking, I'm going to beat that person, that weight division, I've got to beat them. We were lucky to have quite a lot of people at different weights. We won the world, you know, the world titles. We won. Then we went to Wasco, another organisation. We beat them. Probably Clash of the Titans is a thing that everybody knows here. And, you know, continuing from Dave's training and what have you, taking that onto the next level and winning that about 4 times. And you also know I think you're up against not just a team, you know, there were ready for training, you know what I mean? Sometimes they might have, helped take some other things that helped them perform on the day. But, we had a group of people who would, from all around the UK, that would absolutely die for you. And you knew that. They were going to give you absolutely everything. So, and I say, going on to the teams now, the men's and women's team, we've developed. We've got Gordon on as assistant coach. We've got some great cadets and everything coming through. Not as many as we would like, because, as I say, it's harder to, get people to come and train with you. It's get that commitment.
There seems to be less commitment these days from some of the younger athletes.
Yeah, that's good, right. It's people. I think it's life in general. People want the most out of it without putting a little amount of effort in.
Yeah.
We all know you only get out what you put in. People want to train. Some people want to train maybe twice a week. Some people want to do it once a week, and then with add-ons to help get through the grading and everything. And you just know, my adage always is, you heard me say this, Jackie, you train average, you'll be average.
Yeah, very true.
Same as everything.
What would you say, Kenny, to like youngsters that are out there that would love to get in the team, and what sort of advice would you give them really?
First of all, you'd be training regularly in school. Enjoy your taekwondo. Work with your instructor. Tell them you maybe want to have these aspirations. Squad training is £5 for 2.5 hours of training minimum. 2.5 hours or maybe 3 hours. You can come and train with the best martial arts people in the UK.
If not the world.
For £5. You can get the same kind of training. We can adopt it. They're going to be trying hard. There'll be certain things. But how I try to do it is use them as an influence. So we put the high belts, with them. There'll be bits where they'll use, they will, not mentor's the wrong word, but they can interact with the athlete. They can train. They can go and spar with Tim Chow, and they can go and spar with, Matt Fern will still put his kit on, you know what I mean? And some of the others who, all the team members, Angelia, etc., and they can come and train with them. And they can say, yeah, we do this little bit about feedback and what was good, what could be better. And hopefully that will inspire them, and they can say, oh, I can do that. And maybe that will inspire them. We have got some good people coming. And we've got some people in the other areas, the Welsh and the Scottish areas. You know what I mean? Not seeing much of the Northern Ireland, but, we've got some good kids coming back through. It's like peak and trough of people coming and training. But to me, train hard. If you want to do it, the facilities, and the chances to do it are there. I'll put it on in the Midlands. I know some people have to travel. I have to travel. It's not like it's in Bradford, where I can just fall out of bed and go there. I'm up at, 7 o'clock and travelling down. But you will get so much from it. And you know what? You'll get fit. You'll have some fun. The fitness will help you in any other sports that you do. The type of things, improving your flexibility and everything, improving your mind, improving all the other attributes, and that we use in the training.
Yeah, I mean, on the fitness thing, Kenny, I know, like I say, a lot of your sort of squad members that we've interviewed on this podcast have, 2 or 3 of them said, you were the fittest person in your heyday. Your cardio was on a different level. Could you talk us through the sort of things you used to do back in the training, back in your heyday?
I just used to do, as I said, the school. I was like in the athletics champion, running. You wouldn't think so now looking at me, but pushing, running and everything, just training all the time. I'd be out training. I had my friend, before I went to work at the shipyard where I was an apprentice, my friend, I used to either run to work or bike to work, depending on whether my friend had come from his night shift at the pit, knocked on my window at 6 o'clock in the morning, got me up, and I'd been out running. He'd be on his bike and I'd be out running, because we just kind of did that kind of thing. Training, running for me is the base to build. It was a base to build everything. We didn't have as many, information now, scientific information. So it was a lot of, it was running first, but then we did lots of circuits. You've seen the type of circuits. I think there's some old footage and everything knocking about. Then Bob Howe brought some different stuff in, some things that Sebco was doing, and I know that we were up there on the fitness, same kind of fitness times with some of the Olympic athletes. And we had a really good, fit, strong team. It involved lightweights, lots of them, training, lots of stretching, lots of bag work. I used to do the boxing club as well, but then you'd be, as I mentioned earlier, you'd be in the back garden or the punch bag or the Marawaki, training, but a lot of practicing both sides, that flexibility, lots of stretchings 3 times a day.
No, that's something
getting flexible.
Me to do more of. And I tell you, every morning I stretch, but it never seemed to be enough.
Yeah. And
sometimes, your body won't let you, your hip joints or everything like that. But it is about making the most of what you've got. Sometimes, as I said, it can just be your own body mechanics. But making what you can do, work. I know one of my friends, Ralph Minot's, not the most not the most flexible person in the world, but he'd get you in the head plenty of times to know, don't you worry about it, it's still going to go from the floor to the score, you know what I mean? And it was those type of things, but doing lots of stuff. The training sessions were different, they weren't an hour. The training session was 2.5 hours, and you didn't need to do much when you sat in your L stance for 2 or 3 minutes waiting for the instructor to go around and sweep your leg or making a good walking stance. Lots of blocking, punching hard. That's why it's a physical military martial art. The old way of doing it worked everything. And the thing with Taekwondo as a martial art, it's symmetrical. It works both sides. It's not like a tennis player who uses his right side, a golf player uses whatever side. You work left side, you work right side. On everything you do, all the patterns are designed like that. And you can't just be one-sided. You've got to be, when you're practicing your Taekwondo, and if you carry on that into your sparring and everything, you've seen it, Jackie, when I've said, right, film it, film. You do this kick with your right side, and then do the same kick to your left side as you hold your camera up and you kick it, and you go, that left side looked like it belongs to my grandma. You know what I mean? Why? Because you work your good side. Your good side will improve by 5%, 10, not even much as that. Your bad side could improve by 10, 15, 20% if you worked it. And people don't, because they don't feel comfortable doing it. It don't feel right. You don't feel right because you don't practice it right. Yeah. So, these were the things I just did, right side, left side. Lots of, traditional training as well, hard traditional training. But there's people, you do it too hard, they get out of breath, sit down, have a rest, and, not make any of that liquid come out to the forehead.
Okay then, so obviously you've been coaching a number of years. How have you had to adapt as a coach in line with the modern athletes from 20 years ago to now?
Just changing, working the mind as well, working the nutrition. Now there's more information out there, trying to do it, the strength and conditioning, the kind of things that we do. The old school way of doing things, I was lucky I didn't have many injuries through the training, but that was maybe because I did, without knowing, I was doing lots of squats, lots of stretching, lots of balance, which helped really do the job like now you'd be doing strength and conditioning to injury prevention, which Sarah, we've done seminars on and everything we have there. We still do some old school stuff, but we try to say, this is what you've got to be doing. You've got to know what you need, what exercise you need to do to warm up, prevent you getting injured because you don't have a strong, hamstring, quad, or ligament, whichever ones you may need to do. But we're lucky to have the Sarah there to help as well, because I don't have all that knowledge. We've got the nutrition, you know what I mean, and like Gordon's gone up and done a lot on that nutrition now, and I remember losing over a stone in Argentina just in water, making the weight, just high, you know what I mean, and then the next day fighting. You just cut weight by sitting in the sauna or doing something like that. Now it's the more scientific system, and also the mental aspects of it. Some people, as I mentioned before, will be champions anyway. They will be able to do it. Warren's a bit like that. Warren's a very, very focused person, whereas some people you have to do the visualization, everything. Some people have already got it. They're going to do it. Whatever it needs, they're going to do it. And some people, you've got to help them, you've got to nurture them, you've got to give them the tools to make them a better athlete. And not just better athlete, we use that same thing in being in your taekwondo as well, being a taekwondo practitioner. Out there, 20,000 people, we have probably less than 10%, well, a lot less, well, probably 5% now who go into competitions. Heel Cho, like, I've trained with some really good people, said you shouldn't get a black belt unless you've been in at least, 3 or 4 competitions. Why? Because you'll never know what it's like to be in a fight. You'll never know what it feels like when that adrenaline's going, when your legs are shaking like a jelly. Put yourself through that mental and physical reaction you get when it's you against the other. Yeah, in a competition, it's a spar, it's in a controlled environment, but it's knowing how to do it, what a martial artist is about. We've got to remember martial arts were developed so that they could protect people who were being oppressed, who didn't have access to weapons. The only weapons they had were on their end of their arms and legs. That's all they had. So they had to be able to work, and this is the closest you'll ever get to being in that situation and being able to cope with it.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? It's difficult. I know we have these chats sometimes, Kenny, at the grading and stuff, and I always try and influence my students to get in competitions, but it's sometimes you find a losing battle, aren't you?
Yeah, I understand that, and it's just one of those things. This is going back to the old days, and listening to each other. I remember we were at LA Open, and there was Goldie Hawn and one of the Russells there with their kids. They were in the audience, and their kids were, training, and because that's what that's what Cho said. You got to do it, and everybody had to do it. But it's about character building. I know it's not for everybody, but for me, it's like going through a stressful situation. Okay, we have got gradings and things like that, which are the next one up from the next one down, I should say, from going in the competition. But you put yourself in a stressful situation. It is character building, and that's what Taekwondo does for you. You don't have to be a world champion. You have to be a champion of yourself, and that is so important. I keep telling you, I don't care if you don't get a black belt. I'll be here to get you through black belt. But if you get to green belt and that's your milestone, lovely. Have you got something out of it? Have you enjoyed it? Have you personally, mentally and physically improved? Yes. Have you made a friend? Yes. We're doing a good job then. That's what it's about for me. Not just about, I won lots of things, in all different places. But, to me, I'll tell my people, the best thing is tying a black belt on somebody who passed their grading. That is the most rewarding thing for me, and I tie it on like my instructor Tony tied my belt on, because it's tradition, and that is the thing for me.
Absolutely. It's such a great feeling, isn't it? Taking, especially these children when these young children come. I've got lots of kids in my club, Kenny, and it's great, isn't it, when you've got these youngsters that can't get their lefts and rights wrong all the time, and their snot's dribbling out their nose when they're stood in the line, and you're thinking, this kid, he's got no chance, and all of a sudden 5-6 years down the line they've got their black belt and they've been British champion and they're confident. And you think, wow, what a change.
Yeah, and it's helping them. It's like now I'm trying to do a lot of things to do with the coaching and something like that to engage more. We had the STAR program for the junior black belts, and now getting some leadership, not just leadership you might do in your own club, to do with training for 14 to 16-year-olds. We have got an assistant instructors course that we put on, but other things as well, to do with now we have things about safeguarding and first aid and the things that you can use in life. It can help you with your GCSEs and all this kind of stuff, just with your improving yourself. And to me, this is where we need to, engage with those juniors, and they're the next people coming through. And when we talk about the coaching, it won't make your front kick better, but it'll be able to analyse how you put that across. Because we take information in all different ways. It's not just dictatorial and everything. And then you have to understand that what suits Tommy might not suit Lucy. And your toolbox has to have the tools in to get the best out of them. It's not one way suits all way. You have got to find out how you can improve that. And this is what some of the coaching things that we're looking at the moment, and the way you change your styles will make you a better instructor. These are some of the things. It's just very interesting, and it's letting those people understand there are some people are a mini me of their instructor. They walk like them, they talk like them, they have the phrases of them.
What's that saying? You don't know what you don't know. So there are a number of across all martial arts that are mini me's of their instructor.
Yes.
And I think as an instructor, you're not just an instructor. You're a mentor. You're a coach. And a friend and confidant.
Yeah, you're a psychologist, you're a nutritionist, you're a doctor, you're a physio. They come and ask you everything, and they confide in you in certain things. That's why we have all the safeguarding stuff and everything. So I've had some situations in my training which have I've had to do things and help things, and it's not to do with being in the dojo. It's other things, and then the people come back to me and said, "You were right. You really helped me." And we're going off a little bit on that bit, but. No, you're dead right. You are, we say this on the instructor course, you are everything to them. You know what I mean? Like I said, Tony Quigley, Bob Howe, Dave Oliver, Ron, all the people are big influences on my life. I would not be on here doing this now if it wasn't for them. And it's such a privilege. It really is. I'm one of the luckiest men alive. I have a job which is so enjoyable every day. I was talking to a friend the other day, super skier, does some stuff with the ski club, and he says, I hate my job. He has another job that he has to do. He owns his own company, but it's a way of doing the other stuff. My job, I love my job, and I get paid to do it, and I'm happy every day, most days. So yeah.
Yeah, sure. Okay then, Jenny. So we're gonna wrap up in a moment. So one thing we always ask our guests is what motivates you in life. So we heard already what motivated you as a young fighter. What's motivating you now as a coach?
For anybody who comes in my Taekwondo classes or comes to squad training, to get as much out of it and as much enjoyment and as much fun as I have. And that's to better them physically, mentally. Some of them might go on to be Taekwondo instructors and it becomes a job. Met some great people, like Sarah, I know the physio, she's been on here. She was a student, and then she started she was one of the first women physios for Halifax Town, for the rugby league. You never saw women running on. It was a bloke with a bucket and a sponge, and then she, changed all that. And she's been training with the team, and now, after all these years, she's going to be taking a black belt. This weekend. Great, isn't it? She's strapped everybody together, and I think including you, Jackie. You know what I mean? And making sure that they're all right, they can perform to the best. And now it's my job to help her get there as well, and she's doing super. And strangely enough, from there, Ben, her son, he's coming on. He's got learning difficulties, and he has come on. Jackie is trains with you and as well, and he's changed. I've seen a change in 11, and these are the things that Taekwondo does. It's just fantastic.
No, it's inspirational, isn't it, when you see people? And it's, to be honest, it motivates me. Getting up to class every 2 or 3 days, making sure I'm in good condition, making sure I'm able to train them, and I know Gavin's exactly.
Yeah. I like I say, obviously I know you too, and I know you, Jackie. I know you obviously from the squad, and there's never anybody who didn't dig down to his boots like you. You were again an inspiration to the young kids coming through. I know obviously all the other what goes on to her stays on to her, and how you influenced a lot of people in that team, and were always somebody who the people could rely on, who trained hard, who put everything in, and you're putting back into it. Like this podcast, giving some ideas. It's just moving forward with, how things are. It's just, like I say, meeting you both, Gavin moving up north, that was the best thing you ever did. Okay, and, and your job now, how it changes. You would have thought that. I have some people on the instructor's course say, who thought, why did you take up martial arts? to defend myself, to train. And then one said, to be an instructor. I'm thinking, you're having a laugh, aren't you? The first lesson you went to, you thought, I'm going to be an instructor. It's a progression. And then when you see it, as we said, your instructor influences you. It's, then you think, I could do that. And how much your influence, the butterfly effect is just, it's great. Martial arts, so you're getting the right people, is brilliant.
But it changes you, doesn't it? It totally changes you as a person, and becoming an instructor. It is great. It is great, especially when you get to influence all these people and get them to get to their black belt. It's a great feeling, for sure.
Yeah, it's like, it does make me laugh when people see you and see a high belt. You know what, we are all actually the same. Yeah, because, but if you ever want to talk to any of the people, all the people on that committee, all the people, the high belt TAGB, just say, hi, how are you? We're exactly the same. You want to know something, ask the question. You might think, they look a bit stern, they look a bit whatever. You know what I mean? Don't be put off by looks. That's not a good thing to be. You know what I mean? Letting somebody put off by, he looks a bit stern, or they do this, or just gonna say, hi, how are you? And they'll go, hi, how are you? We haven't forgot, we were white belts too. That's the main thing. We've been where you are, and that's why we'll always give you some, our advice. Always remember, if you ask a question, you should be getting that truthful answer, and sometimes it might hurt. I'm not very good, I'm not very flexible. Well, stretch more. I don't like it, it hurts. Well, stretch a bit more. I want to get fitter. Well, do some running. I don't like running. Well, unless there's a fairy out there who can touch you with a magic taekwondo wand, you got to DIY it.
Yeah. No, for sure. So, in fact, listen, thank you very much, Kenny. Like I say, we're going to have to wrap it up in a minute, but it's been great having you on and great hearing some insights. Certainly, I think the audience were, certainly the TAGB audience, are desperate to try to get you on to listen to your podcast.
All right, no, much appreciated. You know what I mean? I think some of the things that went out, some of the freestyle and, some of the other competitions and the full contact, and being all around the world. I've been there when they've been burning the flags and booing you, and by the end of the fight, they're clapping you. You know what I mean? Doing some of the stuff with Bill Wallace, the exhibition fights. But mainly, mixing with some great people. And I got to just say again, you know what I mean? Yeah, I had Tony Quigley and I had Mick Fanthorpe. But Dave Oliver has been a massive, massive influence, you know what I mean? And the Midlands and Ron and, going down and mixing with all them have been, it's been a privilege. Jackie, your dad, you know what I mean? Oh, crikey, it's scary to think that. I remember your dad coming off nights, okay, and he'd come to squad training and everything. Some super things. We should have an evening with. That would be fun.
Yeah.
All right then, Kenny. Thanks again for your time. Really.
Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, and all the best. Remember, everybody in Taekwondo, you got or martial arts. Okay, you got to train hard. You only get out what you put in.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Kenny.
Thanks a lot.
Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Don't forget to like our Facebook page and our Facebook group, The Motivated Martial Artist Podcast.
Or check us out on Instagram, The Motivated Martial Artists,
where you'll see much more content and early insight into some of the interviews and some of the guests and some of the conversations around the things that we're discussing. Hope to see you all next week.
Bye for now.
Bye.